Well, hello there, Chatham-Kent. I hope everyone's doing well. For those who don't know me, my name is Philip Mock, and I'm the executive director here at Vision Us here in Chatham-Kent, Ontario. And I'm joined today by Beth Earley from the Housing Department at the Municipality of Chatham-Kent. Today, we're here to talk about community housing, everything to do with community housing. So I hope you're in for an interesting conversation over the next hour. Before we jump in, just a couple pieces. Uh, Beth is going to start with a little bit of a presentation talking about community housing, setting the foundation for a really solid conversation. Then we're going to open the floor up to some questions from the audience. So if you're watching, even during the presentation, feel free to add your comments below the live stream. We'll get to them as soon as we're done the presentation. Looking forward to your questions. Beth, thank you so much for joining.
Hi, Phil. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. And anybody who is here and interested in discussing community housing, I'm a program manager with the Chatham-Kent Housing Services, which is a department within the municipality. And today we are going to discuss all things community housing. So when we get into the presentation, we can discuss a little bit more about what that means.
Fantastic. And that's a great place to start us off, Beth. Why don't we jump into the presentation? Shall I go to the first slide?
Please.
Perfect.
So when we discuss community housing, we are discussing basically all of the programming that happens within Chatham-Kent Housing Services. Community housing itself is a term that we use to discuss housing that provides or housing that's safe, sustainable, and affordable. And that is something that is required by everyone in the world. And today we'll talk specifically about Chatham-Kent. In programming, we are talking about rent geared to income housing that you probably knew as public or social housing back in the day. Affordable housing, which is a little bit different than RGI or social housing. Portable housing benefits, what they are and where they apply to. And we'll touch just a little bit on some of the programming that we have available for homeowners. So again, it's Chatham-Kent Housing Services that coordinates the delivery of all of these programs. So next slide, please, Phil. So what we do in Chatham-Kent Housing Services is assess applications for program eligibility. And unfortunately, there are wait lists for all of our programs, and we maintain those wait lists according to program guidelines, legislations, and municipal policies. Right now, we have 1,381 RGI units, and these are located throughout the municipality from Bothwell to Wheatley and everywhere in between. We also support that with 93 rent supplement agreements that we have with private landlords that effectively allow us to use their units as RGI units. We coordinate 134 municipal funded portable housing benefits, and we make referrals for currently 205 Canada, Ontario housing benefits, or COB, as you may have heard it referred to. We deliver home ownership assistance to help people stay within their homes and be safe and build their equities. These include a Renovates program that helps homeowners make energy efficiency and accessibility improvements to their home, and affordable home ownership, which helps households with a down payment so that they can access a home if they currently are not owners or if they're renters who've been within the municipality for at least 12 months. And we also build more units. They're always needed. And currently we have 66 new affordable units that are under construction that we anticipate will be filled by winter of 2025. Next slide, please,
Incredible.
Phil. So rent geared to income, as we discussed, is what has been more commonly known as social or public housing. We have units that are owned by Chatham-Kent, about half of our 1,381, and the other half are owned by 11 nonprofit housing providers, or P&Ps as they're called. And all units, as I said, are located throughout Chatham-Kent.
Mm.
So rent geared to income housing, your rent is set, as the name implies, according to your income. So the affordability threshold that's accepted by most of Canada and the world is that about 30% of your income, no matter what it is, should be spent towards your housing. And that would be your complete housing, rent, utilities, insurance, etc. So we use a formula that's prescribed by the Housing Services Act, which is provincial legislation, to determine a rent amount that is about 30% of your adjusted family net income. So that means about 30% of your total income for every household earner within the family would be spent towards your housing. There are different scales for people that are receiving income subsidies, such as OW and ODSP, that are determined by the legislation. So, what our group does is determines the eligibility according to the Housing Services Act and a few local rules, but effectively there's 5 ways that we consider if you're eligible for rent geared to income housing. And that is your age. You need to be over 16, primary householder. The citizenship. So you need to be a Canadian citizen or landed in immigrant, or there's different refugee statuses that may make you eligible for the wait list. Your income. Your income is prescribed under the Housing Services Act as a household income limit, and those are different depending on the number of people in your household. You can't owe arrears to a RGI housing provider, so another municipality or housing provider, anyone that is in a service agreement or provides RGI housing across the province. And you need to be able to live independently. And by this, we mean you need to be able to meet your responsibilities as a tenant or carry out the activities of daily living, either alone or with services that are already set up. So we determine your eligibility for rent geared to income based on that criteria. And then you are added to the housing wait list. So the housing wait list is administered basically based on the date that you applied for housing. So if you applied for a 1-bedroom unit on January 1st of 2023, you're going to be higher on the wait list that did the same thing in January of 2024. We do have priorities that are giving to households that are fleeing domestic violence or human trafficking, or for those who are experiencing homelessness. So this PowerPoint will be available after the presentation, and you'll see that there are some links to applications or other information throughout it, and those will be shared during the presentation as well. Next slide, please, Phil. So rent geared to income housing, applicants may choose from a variety of suitable units. And by suitable, I mean that it's appropriately sized for the number of people in your households and that it meets your mobility needs or requirements. So we do have modified to fully accessible units available depending on your needs. They may be available to accommodate your mobility needs within your home. Know that you can change your housing selections at any time. So we will share the number for housing services. You'll have a housing placement coordinator who at this time is Carol if you are 50 and single or a family, and Tammy if you are over 50 or a senior, and they're happy to work with you to keep your housing selections up to date. Know that you can put your application in pending status as well. So if you are eligible and on the wait list, but you've, I don't know, for example, accepted a lease that you have to stay in for 1 year, then please call us and you can put your application on pending status. So that'll help you keep your application date, but it means that you won't get any offers during the period when you can't accept or are ready to move. Know as well that households on the housing wait list for RGI will only receive one offer. And if you turn down that offer, then your file is canceled and you'll need to reapply. So unfortunately, at this point, there is a strong need for supports in housing, meaning that we've got 1,200 households on the wait list looking for a suitable and affordable home. And currently wait times are between 4 and 7 years. Next slide, please, Phil. So to help reduce your wait time, things that you can do include learning more about RGI locations before you make your selections. And in this presentation, there's a link to a page that we have that shows all of our RGI locations and most of our affordable locations. And you're able to see where they are relative to things that are important to you, such as which schools are in the area, for example, or is it close to a bus route or a grocery store? So by clicking this link and viewing units on the GIS map, that'll help you inform your selections so that you have selected all of the housing locations that meet your needs and you're ready for an offer and know what you're getting involved with. It's really, really important that you notify housing services when there are any changes in your household that affect your application. So for example, if you add another household member, so if you get into a partnership and want to add that person to your application, it's important to do it in the application stage. If you are having a baby and may need an extra bedroom, you may be entitled to a bigger unit. If your income changes, if your assets change, and most importantly, if your contact information changes, we typically try to stay in contact with all of our applicants at least once a year. And the longer you've been on the wait list, the more critical this becomes. So please remember, if you have changed your contact information, let us know and we'll update your file so that we can be in contact when an offer of programming may be available to you. Please select all the buildings and locations that meet your needs. If you, for example, work in Wheatley, you don't want a location in Bothwell. We absolutely understand that. But if there's an opportunity to pick housing that meets your needs, it's the appropriate size and within the area that you need for work, school, whatever the situation might be, the more units that you select, then the more likely you are to reduce your wait time. And very important as well is to complete your income tax every year and keep your notice of assessment. So your income tax notice of assessment is the document that your housing provider will use to determine your rent amount. So it's really important that that's available if you receive an offer of housing. If you're not familiar with the notice of assessment, that is after you file your taxes, the correspondence the government will send to you in the mail or via email if you're on the CRA system and hooked up, that confirms that they have reconciled your taxes and what your income is. When you receive that, please keep it someplace where you know where it is. It'll be handy when you are to receive an offer of programming. And that doesn't matter if it's RGI or a portable housing benefit, affordable, it's needed for everything. Mm-hmm. Also, please know that housing services will notify you to complete an annual review. So we want to ensure that we have proper contact information. As I said, we're building new units right now. When those become available, we send out a list to add that housing selection because it wasn't available when you applied 3 years ago, for example. So we're often in contact, more often than once a year. And we need your updated contact information and to ensure that you've got housing supports or selections that are relevant to your life now. If you're on the wait list for 7 years or 5 years, whatever the case might be, things change in that amount of time. And we want to make sure that you have housing selections that are going to meet your needs.
Mhm.
And we will contact you as you advance up the wait list to do what we call a rental readiness exercise. Basically, your housing placement coordinator will contact you to find out if your housing selections meet your needs still, to let you know if there's new programming, to answer
Mhm.
any questions you might have about your housing selections. Maybe you're wondering if you can have a satellite dish or how far it is to get on the bus route. Any of those kind of questions, they're there to assist with. And that happens when you're further up the wait list. But know that we do reach out, and that's why having up-to-date contact information is so important. Next slide, please. So housing services, in community housing, we don't offer emergency housing. And I know that there's so many people out there that are in a crisis with their current units. So again, while community housing doesn't offer emergency housing supports, we do have resources available in the community. Just precautionary, I'd want to say, if your landlord asks you to leave or give you a notice, please don't sign anything. There is means to review their request through the landlord tenant board and otherwise. So it's not like you receive a notice and you have to be out in 2 weeks. If you receive a notice and you're confused, I would, or have questions or need assistance of any kind, you can contact the Chatham-Kent Legal Clinic, and that number is available in this presentation. And the website's also shown, but typically they're best to reach by phone. If you're now homeless or know that you soon will be homeless because you've gone through all the LTV process and you just know that is the situation, you can call the homelessness response line, and that number is available as well in this presentation.
Mhm.
And if you are someone who is in receipt of OW or ODSP and you are concerned about your housing, or if you are homeless, reach out to your OW or ODSP case manager, and they can provide some assistance as well. So that being the case, next slide, please, Phil. We have RGI housing that are specific units that are subsidized to allow you to pay rent at about 30% of your income. Also, we have affordable housing. And affordable housing are units with rents that are set at 80% of average market rent. What
Mm.
that means is CMHC, or Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, a division basically of the federal government, does market surveys. And for each area, so Chatham-Kent to everywhere in Canada, they determine what the average market rents are for different housing sizes. So from bachelors up to 4-bedroom. And the rent at affordable housing units are set at 80% of the average market rent at the time that you move in. So most of these units are owned by private organizations or private landlords or the municipality. Since 2018, we've spent about $15 million to invest in affordable housing units, and 107 additional units to the 1,381 RGI units have been developed. And again, currently we have 66 units under development that we anticipate will be occupied by winter of 2025 at this time. Most of the units are 1-bedrooms because that's what our greatest need is in Chatham-Kent right now. And they are primarily in Chatham, but there are some in other smaller communities throughout the municipality as well. And again, there's a link in this presentation when it's posted so that you can find the application and apply for affordable housing. Next slide, please, Phil. So another big component of our programming are portable housing benefits. And portable housing benefits are exactly what their name implies. So this is a benefit that is paid directly to a tenant household that allows them to use it in the case of the municipal benefit anywhere throughout the municipality. So you're able to move it as you move. You may have gotten it to start in Wallaceburg and have decided to move to Palmyra, and the benefit goes with you. And every year you will be assessed for continued eligibility, and the benefit will go on as long as you remain eligible. The same thing is true for the COB, or Canada Ontario Housing Benefit, we discussed. So this one is provided provincially, and you can use it anywhere within the province of Ontario, provided that you remain eligible. And they're great because although we have 1,381 RGI units and we'll soon have 173 affordable units, they don't necessarily meet the need of every household in every community. Yeah. So if you have specific medical or accessibility needs that an RG unit doesn't meet, if you need a 3-bedroom, for example, in Dresden, we don't have that RGI unit, but a portable housing benefit can help you afford one that is full market rent. So they're great benefits for people that, or households that aren't able to find a rank year to income unit that meets their specific needs. They're great to keep you in a community where you're comfortable or have a job or have supports. And the wait time in general for a PHB is 2 to 5 years. Next slide, please, Phil. So the important takeaways from this presentation and what I want to share with you about accessing community housing is to please give us a call. We have housing placement coordinators that can help you decide which program is best for you. Maybe you're not sure if RGI is the way you want to go and you didn't know much about portable housing benefits, and the one slide I just shared didn't answer all your questions, but you can ask them in the comments. Remember that. But in general, to talk specifically and personally, call a housing placement coordinator. They have detailed knowledge of all the programming and can assist you in making informed choices. If you're currently on our wait list, please notify us if there are any changes in your application. So the family members, if anybody has joined your household or moved out, your contact information, most importantly, please keep us up to date with that so that you are able to accept offers or learn about new programming as it becomes available. If your income changes, let us know. And if you sign a lease that you're stuck in for a year, please give us a call, and we have the ability to work with you on that property. Maybe you're happy there and now we're interested in a portable housing benefit to help with the affordability. Yeah. If you're in a lease, we can put you in pending status, and then you won't get an offer that you have to turn down and have to start again at the bottom of the housing list. So, if you've got any questions, we're always here. Please give us a call. Please ensure that you file your taxes and keep your notice of assessment. Again, that's the letter you'll get from the government after that says that they've reconciled your tax file, and they provide a summary. It's that summary that we need. There's a few lines that we look at on that summary that help us determine what your rent will be or that you're eligible for programming. So please keep those. And review your housing selections often. When you are notified that you're eligible for whatever programming you've selected, so affordable or more importantly RGI or PHBs, we will send you a housing selection list, and that will show you which buildings you're on the wait list for. review that often. If they are no longer relevant, give us a call and we'll help get them off of your building selections. Or if now there's other buildings that are more relevant, then we can add those for you as well. So again, important contact information. The Chatham-Kent Legal Clinic can assist you if you are facing eviction or have questions about your responsibilities as a tenant or your landlord's responsibilities. Chatham-Kent Shelter Solutions, and specifically the homelessness response line, can assist if you are experiencing homelessness or believe you will be soon. And again, if you are in receipt of OW or ODSP, contact your case manager and they can assist as well.
Fantastic. Beth, thank you so much for this presentation, because I think a lot of times we talk about what are you supposed to do once housing is at risk? Who are you supposed to call if your housing's at risk? This presentation really talked about how do you get into the municipally driven supports and services to get you into the affordable housing or community housing supports and services that we offer as a municipality. Thank you for that presentation. For anybody in the back, can you take off the presentation and leave it just to Beth and I? Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Beth. As I said, why don't we jump into a couple questions that I have based on what you were talking about here.
Okay.
And for those listening in, please feel free to add your questions below. We have people keeping an eye on our Facebook and YouTube to make sure that individuals and your comments are being heard. We want to make sure we're addressing any questions you may have right now. We're live. So, Beth, we just talked about the types of different types of housing and types of units we have in the municipality. Affordable, RGI, co-op, RGI. There's all these different terms. Could we just maybe get a very succinct summary? What are the major types of housing and what are the differences?
So within rent geared to income, there are about half the units that are owned by the municipality. So that would mean that Chatham-Kent Housing Services acts as the landlord and provide service to the building and the tenants that live there. Mm-hmm. We have 9 other housing providers that are not-for-profit organizations or charities or both that provide the same sort of housing. They're the owners of the building, though, instead of the municipality. And you would get a rent subsidy to live in their units, but they're the landlord. They run the building. They do the maintenance. They're there to field complaints about anything relative to your tenancy. And then we have 2 cooperatives or co-ops, as they're more commonly called. In those cases, you wouldn't be a tenant, you'd be a member. Oh. And with your membership comes the responsibility to help with some of the duties on the property. So you're expected to participate in governance. So as a member, attend an AGM, be interactive with the board. There's actual duties to help keep the property in good repair. So pulling weeds in gardens or cutting grass or any number of things, painting a common room, that kind of thing. But part of your responsibilities as a co-op member are to participate. So it's a little different than being a tenant. And at the same time, the membership is the owner of the cooperative. And that's the reason it's called a cooperative.
So it's a little bit more responsibility than when you're in a cooperative housing structure to participate more in the upkeep of the building.
Correct. And for that, you get the benefit of being more involved in the governance and the day-to-day operation. So gotcha. There's a strong community feel with a cooperative.
Gotcha. Okay. Now we talked that helps to understand the difference between sort of municipally owned property, privately owned property, and then co-ops. Could RGI and affordable housing be mixed in both, or are there certain types of units and certain types of owned property?
Yeah, that's a great question, Phil. So there are properties that have units that are rent geared to income that are private market rentals that have nothing really to do with the municipality and aren't funded. And they may also have done recent developments that have units that are affordable units. So you could have all three. So your rent's at 30% of your income, RGI. Your rent is set and remains at 80% of AMR, affordable and market rent as set by the landlord, and all in one building.
Wow. Okay. So I can understand that there's a level of complexity to this, but I'm glad we're trying to make it simple with this conversation. But it sounds like it's a complex navigation on your end a lot of the times, trying to figure all this stuff out.
It is, and sometimes if you're interested in rent geared to income, and we'll say affordable, and you'll see the same building on both the applications, and you wonder how do I know if I should apply for affordable, or how do I know if I should apply for rent geared to income?
Yeah.
We'll tell you to apply for both. In that building, you can be on both wait lists, and if you're able to afford the affordable rent at 80% of AMR, it may come up more quickly than rent geared to income. And, then you've got to decide that whether or not to take that unit. If you don't take the affordable unit, your affordable application will be canceled, but you're able to stay on the wait list for rent geared to income.
Gotcha. Okay.
So there's a lot of options, and that's why it's great if you've got questions to please call us, talk to your housing placement coordinator.
Absolutely. What a great resource, because as you just said, there are a lot of options here. This isn't just a one size fits all approach. And I think that's where, you bring in different partners sometimes. So I know that some individuals who are trying to access rent geared to income or affordable housing might need extra supports and services getting into this housing or staying housed. Can you maybe speak to some of the partnerships that the municipality in your department has and the types of units that they offer?
Absolutely. So one of the things we talked about in eligibility is the ability to live independently.
Yep.
So in Chatham-Kent, we take that as your ability to perform activities of daily living, like washing and cleaning your units, and being able to get and prepare groceries so that you've got food to eat. So if you've got supports that will help you with that, maybe you need help bathing twice a week, for example, or maybe you need full supports. We are in what we call referral agreements, but let's call them partnerships with different organizations like March of Dimes, Community Living, Canada Mental Health Association of Lambton Kent, that will help with different levels of support. So we have RGI units that have 24-hour care for those who are eligible through March of Dimes, all the way down to light touch supports. So they are available. And again, the organization you may work with, for example, Community Living, we have units that are referred by them. Talk to your agency and see if the units are right for you, and then we're able to assess if you meet the RGI eligibility criteria, and that may be a unit that is affordable but also meets your supportive needs to allow you to be independent.
Gotcha. Okay. And so just to clarify a little bit, if I'm a customer or client, so working with an agency, be it March of Dimes, Community Living, or CMHA, I would then go to my worker at that agency, and they'd be the ones to refer me to the housing department to get this apartment, or to be put on the list.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct. And most of these units, because they understand the needs and the acuity of the people that they serve, they maintain the wait list. And when a unit that's dedicated to that organization becomes available, they'll work to fill it.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
it's best to absolutely talk to your worker from that agency, as you shared, Phil.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. Okay, so we have an understanding of the types of units, the types of housing that's available in the community. Big takeaway is contact your, and I apologize, I forget the term, but contact the housing department. What's the type
housing
of
placement coordinator.
housing placement coordinator. Thank you, Beth. So contact that individual. They're the ones who are going to be helping you navigate the different options that are available, and they'll set you up for the best success through what programs you offer.
Absolutely. That's a great place to start. If you're got all this information, know that you need support or with affordability or accessibility, whatever the case might be.
Mhm.
A great place to start if you don't know where to start is with your housing placement coordinator.
Gotcha. Okay. Now that we understand that, let's talk about, I'm sure a big question on people's minds is how do I even get into a unit in the first place? Or how will I know when a unit is available? Do you text me, call me? How are you going to get in touch with me so I know that there's availability for me?
So when a unit becomes available and your household is on top of the list, you can expect that you'll get a call from the housing provider. So it could be us at the municipality. We've got,
Mhm.
as I said, about half the units. It could be one of the co-ops or private nonprofits. So they're going to reach out by phone, likely first. And if they are unable to contact you, they will send a written notice and give you a time period. As I said, we've got 1,200 households on the wait list right now. So we don't like to have units that sit empty. And if you've provided us an email on your application, that they can reach out that way as well. So
Gotcha. And so it's not just your department who's reaching out, it might be either a co-op or maybe even a private landlord who's reaching out because they're in partnership with the city to offer these types of programs.
correct. So in your housing selection, if you've selected any buildings that are owned by our private nonprofits, so Columbus Estates, Clairview,
Mhm.
I won't list all 11 of them, but anything that's not a municipal unit, they're going
Yeah,
to be the first people to reach out to you when you're going to be offered a unit.
gotcha.
You probably, if they're having problems getting a hold of you, then you could expect that your housing placement coordinator may give you a call as
Mm,
well, just to see if they've got different information or if if they can contact you, because we really want when that offer is extended
mhm.
for you to be available and to move in as quickly as possible.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's not like a one call, and if I miss it, all of a sudden I'm kicked off or something like that. There is a little bit of
No,
so
we'll try any means that we have to get a hold of you.
okay.
And this is a great point. I'm glad you asked this, Phil, because you also have the opportunity to put a contact person on your file.
Ah,
So you could put your
okay.
mom, your friend, whomever, your case manager,
Mhm.
and know that we don't share information with whomever you put there. So if you haven't put anybody because you thought that we were going to share details about your application, we don't. But if you put your friend Phil and we can't get a hold of you, we may call Phil and say, we're trying to get a hold of so and so. Can you let them know when
Gotcha.
you call them or see them, or if you have a means to get a hold of them that I don't? So
Gotcha.
we won't ask them for updated contact information. We'll just ask them to please let you know that we're trying to get a hold of you.
Gotcha. Okay. That's great information to know because I think a lot of people would have assumed that if they put a second person, all of a sudden you're going to divulge all the
No,
secrets, right?
no.
So,
And that being said, we can share information with other people if you want their help in
mm,
choosing programming or providing updated information. But there's a specific release form that we used for that that ensures that we have your authorization to speak to that person about your form. But
perfect.
contact or your application, but the contact aspect on the application form is strictly to let somebody know we're trying to get a hold of you.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Now, Beth, you talked a little bit about choice in terms of there might be some choices in where you want to potentially stay. You have multiple different buildings across the municipality, mainly in China, but across the municipality to choose from and to pick as many choices as possible. What happens if I get a call? I'm on the wait list, I get a call, a unit's not available, but it's my second or third choice. First of all, do I have to take it? And second of all, if I do take it, am I eligible later on to move into my first choice building later on? So two-parter question.
Okay, you cut out there for a little bit, but I think
Oh,
I got the gist of your question.
okay.
If you, so you have the opportunity as an applicant to choose as many units or as few as you want. So if
Okay.
you just really want to live at, we've got a municipal building 99 McNaughton,
Mhm.
you can put in an application and only choose that one. But if you're willing to be mobile throughout the Chatham or the municipality, you can select every one bedroom if that's what your occupancy eligibility is.
Mhm.
So you are able to make your own selections, and they can be as few or as many as you want.
Okay.
That being said, there is no first, second, third choice. Maybe you really want
Oh.
99 McNaughton, but you've also chosen 85 Pine, which is another one bedroom building owned by the municipality, but it's on the south side instead of the north.
Mhm.
So in that case, you would live in the unit that was your second choice for 1 year. Then you would be eligible for an internal transfer. So that is
Oh.
because both of those buildings are owned by the municipality. So
Okay.
we have housing providers that have multiple buildings as well. So I'll use Columbus Estates, who have buildings. They have two buildings on the south side and one on the north side, and
Mhm.
they're 1 year as well before you can put in for an internal transfer. And then you go on a list. It doesn't mean you get to transfer after a year. You go on a wait list with anybody else who may wish to do what we call an internal transfer as well.
Okay.
If you have selected buildings that are owned by different providers,
Mhm.
then you would have to reapply for rank geared to income
Okay.
and go through the process again. You don't get a priority.
Gotcha. Okay,
So
so
this
there's
is
that.
why it's really important to only select buildings that you're willing to live in. Because if you get that offer and it's say your fourth choice and you don't take the offer, then your file's canceled and you have to reapply again.
I see, I see. Okay, so there is some ability to potentially internal transfer, but the caveat is it has to be the same landlord you're doing an internal transfer within. And
Correct.
if you and you don't just get to move immediately after a year, you're on another almost wait list waiting to do that internal transfer if there's a
Yeah,
unit
not
available.
almost. It is a wait list, right? So
Got it.
our goal is to have units filled, and then when there's availability, we'll look at if an internal transfer is feasible.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, talking about availability, I know you've heard it before. I've heard it. People calling in saying, "Hey, I see that there's a unit down my hall or at the end of the strip here that is open. How come my friend can't take it, or how come it's not being filled immediately?" Can you help me understand sort of if the wait list is so long, why are some houses not being filled within like a day or two of people leaving?
Yeah, and we get that question quite a bit.
Yeah, I
We've
bet.
had tenants or members in units that have been there for in excess of 30 years in some points.
Wow. Okay.
Um, so in that unit, let's say somebody's lived there for 10 years to be more or closer to average, we'll say. There's a lot of repairs that may need to happen. Maybe, these are
Mm,
things we call life cycle repairs. It's not that damage was done or there was any, you know, neglect by the property owner. It's just when you move into a new place or get a new place, maybe now is the time to repaint the whole thing. Now's the time to get
mm,
rid of that carpet and put different flooring down and
yeah.
a new fridge or cabinetry, whatever the case might be. Or in some cases, if they've been there for a long time, all of those things. A lot of this work, because we've got 700 units or a smaller provider
Oh,
has 60 units, it takes
mhm,
time. There's only so many resources in terms of contractors.
yeah.
Post pandemic, we've seen long lead times on materials. So it we want to get people into units as quickly as possible as well. We know there's a great need and the huge difference it makes in people's lives, but we have
Mhm,
to wait until the unit's ready to be occupied. So we want you in a
mhm.
clean, new, safe, up-to-date unit when you move in. And we hope that unless your circumstances change, that you stay there happily for a longer time. And with a new up-to-date unit, then you're in a good position to be a happy tenant or member.
And I appreciate that, because I think a lot of people say, well, it's open, why can't we move in tomorrow? Well, there's fixes, and it's not just fixes, but it's updating to make sure that the units are really a standard of living and safe, as you said, great condition for longer term. It's a benefit to you as the provider as much as it is to the tenant coming in. It's a benefit all around.
Absolutely. You deserve a fresh, up-to-date unit, and sometimes it just takes a little time to get it there.
Absolutely.
And the other thing to add to that is
Yeah.
we're probably in the place where we're offering, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it takes a while. So if we offer a unit today and you were away and you didn't get back to us for a week, and then we've got to book time for you to come in to view the unit and then sign the lease, and maybe you have to give 2 months notice because that's the requirement to your current landlord. All of those things are lead times that are part of the offer process, we call it, that are on top of any repairs or updates that need to be done. So we are on top of our units, so are our housing providers, and everybody's goal is to get them filled as quickly as we can. So what it might look like is not quick from the outside. We really are working on them.
I bet. I know there's tons of other factors and processes involved. I hear you loud and clear. Thank you for that question, because I think that's, as you said, a lot of times people are asking that. Another question we kind of get as well is age. You mentioned there's 2 workers that support different age ranges based on for eligibility criteria. How old do I have to be to get into a senior specific building?
Okay. So the folks that are going to help you, Carol and Tammy, right now, we just divide it that way because it seems like a fair way to divide their work. It doesn't have anything to do with the seniors buildings. So we have buildings that are dedicated to seniors. There are, I believe we're at 3 right now. Quick count. And those are buildings that when we received money from senior levels of government, and this is like in the 60s to the 80s, they said these buildings are to be for seniors, and we define a senior as age 65 and up. During slower times, we didn't necessarily have enough households age 65 and up to keep the units filled. So we introduced what we call a cascading age policy, which means you're allowed to apply for the unit when you're 60, but we're always going to give preference to households that are 65 and up. So as long as if you applied in 2017 and you are 63, I don't think that math works, but you know what I'm saying.
That's okay.
And then somebody applied yesterday and they're 67, they're going to get the offer before you, based on our obligations to prioritize seniors for seniors buildings, and a senior is 65 and up.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, speaking about seniors as well, I mean, you mentioned something called the portable housing benefit. And I know it's not just for seniors, but it's about helping people stay in the current unit or home they're living in by offering sort of what I understand, as you said, sort of fill the gap with some funding to cover what you can pay versus what the rent or mortgage may be. Can you speak a little bit more to the portable housing benefit? Remind us what it is, and how do I even know if it's right for me?
So portable housing benefits, again, are just monies that are paid directly to you, and then you're responsible to pay your full rent to your landlord. So these are great benefits for folks that are loving where they're living. They've got a place. It meets their needs. They like it. They're getting along great with their landlord. Everything's good. They want to stay there for a long time, but they're feeling an affordability crunch. And this can often be seniors who maybe have exited the workforce and now are on a pension subsidy. So their income isn't what it was last year. but they like the apartment they're renting and they want to stay there. This is a great benefit for them. Um, so if you're a senior and you've maybe been in the place for 20 years and now you've experienced a reduction in income because you retired. This is maybe a good benefit to help you stay where you're at. And again, if you speak with a housing placement coordinator, they can go over that and see that it meets the requirements and help you get an understanding of roughly what your benefit would be.
Okay.
And then you can make an informed decision by knowing that you would get approximately however many dollars.
Exactly. Okay. Now, a point of clarification here, Beth, because, and I don't know if this is a right question, but you spoke about portable housing benefits with rent. If I own my house, same conditions. I'm a senior. I've now retired, but I was able to afford the mortgage. Now it's really tough for me to do so because I'm on my pension or I'm on um, uh, OGS, the senior CPP, for
Yep.
example. Can I still access the portable housing benefit to cover the gap between what I can afford and my mortgage payment, or is this only for renters?
This is only for renters, so it wouldn't
Okay.
be an assistance with a mortgage payment. That wouldn't apply to either the COB, which is offered by senior levels of government, or by the PHB that we offer as a municipality.
Gotcha. Okay. So this is only for renters, and I like where I'm living right now. It works for my family, my household. It's the perfect location. Works for me. I don't necessarily want to move into another unit. I want to keep this. Maybe the portable housing benefit might be the best approach um, for you instead of trying to go into another unit.
Yeah, then the portable housing benefit probably is your best option. And again, in that case, call housing services, speak to a housing placement coordinator. They will ask you to fill out a rent geared to income application. And you'll notice on the housing selection sheet where you pick which unit you're interested in, there's a box at the bottom, a big line that says portable housing benefit. Just check that box and that'll have you on the wait list for both the RGI PHB and the COB, or Canada Ontario Housing Benefit.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. And the word portable, as you said in your presentation, even though I get it here in CK, if I have to move to another city for employment or something, it travels with me. I understand.
The COB, or Canada Ontario Housing Benefit, does,
Okay.
but the municipal one just travels within Chatham-Kent.
Oh,
So this is
good
an
to know.
important thing to discuss with your housing placement coordinator as well. If you're living here now and you're, thinking maybe you want to retire where your children and grandchildren are in Durham, then
Mm,
then they can discuss that maybe it's better. You may wait a little longer, but maybe it's better to apply for a Canada Ontario housing benefit instead of the municipal one. But if
gotcha.
you're um, new to rentals because you're young folk and you intend to stay here for a while, then the municipal one may meet your needs.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, we only have a couple minutes left here, Beth. And so before we kind of do a summary
That
wrap,
flew.
yeah, I know. As I said, right, it flies right by. A question just around sort of the typical questions and concerns you might get. One question is, I called to find if I'm still on the wait list or what my place is on the wait list, but my file was canceled. What's going on? Does that happen frequently?
It happens more often than we'd like, and that comes down to, and it's a nice way to get towards the end. Keep your contact information up to date.
Yeah.
Typically, we've tried to reach out to you because we were canvassing for a new unit that just because a new building became available. We wanted to do an annual update with you. We called to see if you were interested in make an offer in some cases and couldn't get a hold of you. If we can't get a hold of you, and we make every effort to try, but we send out a final notification in the best means to contact you.
Mhm.
And if we don't get a response, then we cancel your file in view of the 1,199 other households waiting. So that's why it's really, really important to keep your information up to date.
A very good way to sort of wrap this up is information must be kept up to date as best as possible by calling in to the housing department and speaking to, I think you said it was Tammy, and the other name is escaping me.
Carol, but
Carol.
anybody that you speak to in housing services will provide that information to us to update your file.
Fantastic.
If you've been corresponding with us by email, you can email it in as well. And the general CK Housing Services at chatham-kent.ca. Or if you've got contact with any of our staff that you've been emailing, send it to them. We'll update the file that way.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, if just for the last couple of minutes here, Beth, any sort of really big takeaways? We've had a multiple throughout. What are some of the really key takeaways that we want to make sure people are walking away with from today?
I think number one is we have many different programming. So we've discussed everything from rent geared to income to portable housing benefits to some assistance for low income homeowners. So if you've got a question, please give us a call, and we're glad to help you be matched up with programming that meets your specific needs. File your income taxes, keep your notices of assessment, put them in a drawer, wherever you can access them, keep them in a file if they're electronic, because all of our programming will require those. So that's really important. And keep us updated. Let us know if your needs have changed, as well as your contact information. If you had a change in lifestyle, like you moved from Bothwell to Wheatley, far ends, and you're really happy there, and you want to keep your housing selections to the specific areas of the municipality, or there's buildings that are new that you're interested in, keep in touch with us, and we'll make sure that you're aligned with programming that meet your needs. That's our number one goal here.
Brilliant. And if you don't want me adding in that, just I wonder if you can speak a little bit as a reminder that community housing is not the same as emergency housing, and there's two distinct services in the municipality for each. Can you just remind us about that again?
Yeah, unfortunately, all of our programming has wait lists. So if you're interested, become part of the wait list or find out what programming you're interested in. The sooner you're on the wait list, the sooner you can access programming. But community housing doesn't encompass emergency housing. And I know that there are folks that are probably listening that need that access. And the best thing to do to find out what your options are to contact the homelessness response line. And again, that's 519-354-6628. And that'll be available in the PowerPoint or the slide deck that'll be available when this programming ends soon.
Absolutely. Perfect. And it just popped up on screen. Absolutely. And I believe the homelessness response line goes right to Employment and Social Services Department with the say there's a sub-department there that
it goes to housing and shelter supports. And I think the thing to share is as well is this line's answered 24 hours a day. So call when you can and need to, and then they'll begin the process of finding ways that we can assist you.
Fantastic. Well, Beth, I thank you so very, very much for taking the time out today. I really appreciate it. This has been extremely informational for myself. I hope everybody listening, this has been good information for you as well. Beth Earley, Program Manager at Housing Services with the Municipality of Chatham-Kent. Thank you again. We have the presentation and a list actually that you compiled, a list of services with contact information. All of that will be posted in the comments section below. So please take a look if you need any supports, services, and the numbers to reach out to Beth and her team at Housing Services. We are also going to be back with Beth on Thursday evening from 7 to 8 o'clock at night. So if you missed us today, that's A-OK. We'll be back on Thursday, 7 to 8, right here on Facebook live streaming and YouTube live streaming. Thank you to everyone who's listening. Thank you again, Beth. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you then.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.